We wouldn't be.
Oh, there we go.
Never demonstrated.
Okay, we're good. Alrighty.
That could help.
Perfect. Alrighty, guys, we're gonna officially kick this off. Once again, thank you everybody who's here. My name is Tricia Shimamura. I'm the Director of Community Affairs for the Manhattan Borough President's Office. I'm thrilled to be joined here by our both Deputy Borough Presidents, Keisha Sutton James in pink and Aya Keith in black. Just a little bit of background and why we're all here. As many of you know, since the start of the pandemic, open meetings law was amended to allow for hybrid meetings with a number of kind of qualifications to that. Hybrid meaning that a quorum of people must be of voting board members would be in person, and that there were those who were participating virtually would have their video on, their audio on, be able to fully participate, that members of the public would be able to access the meeting virtually, and a number of other pieces. The ability to be hybrid, that piece of the open meetings law will end and conclude in July of 2024. Ahead of that sunsetting of that portion of this law, in January of 2024, the Committee on Open Government, which is a state entity, will be reporting on how this period of hybrid has been going, what worked, what didn't work, what should happen after July of 2024. And because the Manhattan Borough President's Office is so closely linked and tied to the work of community boards, to the work of other local public entities that are affected by open meetings law and the future of hybrid or the use of technology in these meetings, we thought that it would be a good idea to hold a public hearing on this to really give everybody an opportunity to submit testimony and on how they feel like it's gone for their board or their committee or as a member of the public even. This meeting was posted on the public record about a month ago or so, and we have had an opportunity for folks to provide testimony virtually through our website. You can still go to our website, manhattanbp.nyc.gov, and see at the top a green banner that says submit your public testimony. That's all been going to the lucky Chris Carroll, who has received probably around 50 pieces of testimony thus far around there. So please rest assured that even if there's not somebody here who would like to speak out on this, that we've received a good amount of testimony already on this. We'll keep that open until the end of the week, so that if anybody comes away from this and decides that they would like to provide additional thoughts, suggestions, respectful comments, they can do so. And then we're going to take everything and send it off to the state in hopes that they would take this into consideration when deciding what happens after in 2024. The Manhattan Borough President has also been outstanding. I'm biased, but he's been great on this, and he's going to be coming. Unfortunately, he's going to be just joining us a little bit later due to an incredibly packed schedule. So I'm really grateful to have a Deputy Borough President, Keisha Sutton James, our Deputy Borough President, Aya Keith here, who will be listening in and presiding over this as well. But with that, I think we're going to get started. In the interest of time, because I will just say we are going to get kicked out of this room at around 1:30 or so for another meeting that's happening. What we're going to do is I'm going to have a 2-minute clock for those who are providing testimony. If you can't get your testimony in under that time, it's okay. We will take the entire testimony submitted to us. And like I said, you have until the end of the week to do so. Because we're a hybrid meeting, we're gonna take a few folks here in person, and then I will go to take a few folks online, and we'll just go back and forth like that. With that, I'm just gonna check to see if there are any questions. Send email link for Rita. Yes, okay, so I will, while somebody is giving their testimony, or actually, John Billings, can you please respond to Miriam Fisher's question about the email and just provide Chris Carroll's email and as well as the subject line, which your subject line for public testimony should be OML public testimony. That way it's easy and can go there. Okay. With that, and again, if you're just joining us, please raise your hand virtually. We'll get to you. We're going to go first with the first. We'll do first 5 folks who have signed up in person to go, and then we'll take the first 5 individuals who have raised their virtual hand. With that, we're going to take Susan Kent from Community Board 2.
Thank you, Tricia. Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Kent. I'm the chair of Community Board 2. I found that the ability to conduct meetings using video conferencing has been a true silver lining of COVID. It's actually brought our meetings into the 21st century and offered benefits well beyond what we've anticipated. We quickly witnessed consistently higher rates of attendance by both members of the board and the public. Not having to go hand in hand to request meeting spaces from institutions in our district relieved our staff of a major administrative burden, not to mention that we were liberated from the time constraints that were often placed on us. I had, like many, assumed that the amendment of the open meetings law to permit the continued use of video conferencing as part of a hybrid model would allow community boards to continue to enjoy the benefits of virtual participation. And to a certain extent, this is true. But what no one has bargained for was that running a meeting that had both in-person and virtual participants is often like conducting 2 separate meetings in the same venue at the same time. The hybrid model doesn't function reliably for community boards because while we are expected to conform to the same requirements set for agencies and public bodies with paid personnel, we lack many of the resources that are deemed essential for paid professionals, such as dedicated meeting space, funds allocated for the purchase and maintenance of conferencing and recording equipment, and access to tech professionals that select, install, operate, and troubleshoot this equipment. I feel like every hybrid meeting is something of a crapshoot. We never know how smoothly things will go. This is particularly true when it comes to full board meetings, which are in a different location every month, because we have neither been allocated dedicated space of appropriate size, nor funds to acquire such space. With the infusion of significant resources, we could improve our performance under the OML's current requirements. But a better answer is to eliminate the quorum requirement entirely. The savings would be significant, our meetings would be more cohesive and run more efficiently. Staff time would no longer be spent on locating meeting sites and managing the technical aspects of a meeting. I believe that the world has changed and people now have a reasonable expectation that video conferencing is a normative tool for conducting business. Our legislature has to stop looking at video conferencing like it's some sort of special accommodation that is inherently suspect, if not policed. I would just, allowing hybrid to sunset is not the answer. We need to move forward. And I urge the borough president to take up the cause to allow the technology to be used on a permanent basis and to eliminate the quorum requirement for volunteer-based bodies such as community boards.
Thank you, Susan. Next, we're going to go to Marquise Harrison, then Kyle Athai, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then Beverly Donahue. So go ahead, Marquise, and I will just kind of tell you when you're hitting your time. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. I did the last remarks as well, but I just want to say my remarks are based upon the board and not necessarily, we obviously welcome having video conferencing for our community and so that they can be, meetings can be inclusive. But as Community Board 10 chairperson, I have the pivotal role of coordinating and ensuring effective representation of the community and making sure that we meet the requirements of the open meetings law. The ability to conduct virtual meetings during the pandemic brought about a remarkable enhancement of our board attendance. We experienced a surge in participation from both our dedicated community members and board representatives and board members. Notably, issues surrounding quorum were minimal thanks to the consistent presence of committee members. While I personally was very happy to return in-person meetings, the introduction of the hybrid model has posed significant challenges requiring in-person quorum while allowing virtual participation and voting has led to the misconception among members that they will be the exception, assuming everyone else will be present in person, and that has perpetuated difficulties in obtaining quorum, hindering our ability to vote on crucial matters. Moreover, the hybrid model has presented a dilemma of certain board members consistently opting for a virtual attendance, irrespective of circumstances. This creates an imbalance, burdening some members with the responsibility of being physically present, while some others remain virtual at all times. In addition to these challenges, we've encountered difficulties in facilitating these meetings with the proper technology, adding to additional layer of complexity in our proceedings. And in contemplating the way forward, we are faced with crucial decision. The benefits of virtual accessibility are evident: a broader reach, increased community engagement, and the ability of all members to contribute regardless of location. However, the hybrid model's challenge, including quorum issues and technological hurdles, cannot be overlooked. A return to fully in-person meetings provides a clarity in expectations, resolves quorum concerns, and fosters personal connections crucial for effective collaboration. The dynamic of face-to-face interactions contributes to a stronger sense of community. In advocating for the future of our meetings, I propose a clear choice: either fully embrace the benefits of virtual accessibility, where all members count towards quorum, or revert to the familiarity of fully in-person meetings, eliminating quorum challenges and setting clear expectations for attendance. Thank you for your attention to this consideration. So just to be clear, I'm advocating for either we are allowed to have virtual meetings, or we are fully in person.
Thank you so much, Marquise. Next, we're going to go to Kyle Fide.
All right, good morning. I want to begin by thanking the Manhattan Borough President's Office for this opportunity. My name is Kyle Fide, and I'm the chair of Manhattan Community Board 6. When I was first elected at the age of 29, it made me one of the youngest chairs ever elected in the history of New York City. I do not mention this to pat myself on the back, but to say that at the age of 29, I should not be the youngest to do anything. I mention this to emphasize that the usual demographic of a community board is retirement age and homogenous in other aspects. For many years, community boards have struggled to welcome a diverse membership because the commitment itself has been so hard to access. It is widely known that community boards are severely under-resourced and underfunded. We're constantly scouring our districts to find physical meeting space and must go hat in hand to request spaces from entities that may have business before our board and are not convenient for members. Since given the ability to join virtually, the diversity of our participation has grown significantly. We have new board members from all walks of life and exponential growth in public attendance. No longer do individuals have to choose between their job and joining a meeting, or choosing between taking care of their children and participating in the community board. We surveyed both our board membership and the public and saw that in each case, that over 90% prefer meeting virtually due to its ability to maximize participation, transparency, and accessibility. Since the in-person mandate has been reinstated, we have seen many young people, working people, as well as parents and caretakers resign from our board because of the mandate to appear in person to an inconvenient location to conduct work that is easily completed online. However, we are not here today to discuss the specific merits of virtual meetings. Today is about making all options legal so that community boards can choose what works best for their members and community. It is about empowering us with choice to self-determine the best way for us to connect with our communities. It is for this reason that Community Board 6 unanimously passed a resolution in support of Assembly Bill A8049, sponsored by Assemblymember Boris, which we helped write. It removes the in-person requirement to attend community board meetings. It is time for us to actually be progressive, to be innovative, and to lead, rather than to following the government and community Luddites that prefer to do things the way that they have always been done. Every other facet of our lives have been adapted and modernized. It is no longer the norm to use quills, switchboards, or typewriters to conduct business. Community boards are not social gatherings. We're not bingo night. We are professional boards with city-mandated duties that have become increasingly more difficult to fulfill given the lack of funding and lack of resources. Given that the current virtual options expire on June 30th, 2024, we urge our state elected officials to equip our boards with choice, with the ability to self-determine a process and method of operation that works best for each of our memberships and communities that increases engagement, transparency, and accessibility.
Thank you. Okay. We're gonna go next to Beverly. Beverly, I think that's the line of visibility. So if you can, I think if you can just switch a little closer, I want to make sure that everybody's sure see you. Thank you. Beverly Donahue, CV7.
Good morning, and thanks to the borough president for enabling this opportunity. It's a subject we all care a great deal about. And I'm speaking as an individual this morning. Our board has not passed any resolution on these matters. So 5 points real quickly. Hybrid is an important option to preserve. We find that there is much greater attendance of the public and that it enables attendance and participation by board members of all abilities, and that's important. But it also permits an interpersonal relationship, which we more or less lost, and which had negative consequences in many ways during the pandemic itself. Secondly, space unavailability should be grounds for a fully virtual meeting. There are a limited number of public spaces open that can accommodate our meeting. Many of the venues we used to use either now charge in excess of $1,000 a shot, or have stopped, given concerns about COVID, from holding large meetings at all. And that remains a constant problem. Thirdly, we believe self-certification of virtual attendance is important. There's a discomfort for committee chairs and the board chair to make public statements announcing the reason for why a individual is not attending. That can invade privacy in many ways, and I've found that it is not a comfortable place to be. Fourth, tech requirements are daunting. Our meetings have required us to hire a consultant to be present to manage all of our meetings, both full board and committee level. That is a drain on our budgets. And while we are actually managing that drain, it is something we're not sure we can continue to do. And fifthly, I believe that quorum should include all properly waivered members from a meeting, because if you are granting that to folks based on criteria that are spelled out in the law, there shouldn't be cap on the number of people who have those legitimate reasons. That's it.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to hear some testimony from those who have signed up virtually. I do think that we've been joined by an elected official, so I'm gonna, just because I know time is difficult, if Assemblymember Boris would like to speak, we'll go and provide testimony. We'll provide him the opportunity to do so. And then, just so everybody's aware, we're going to go next to, after Alex Boris, we will go to Ken Coughlin, David Halauka, Charles Nye, Lori Boris, and then we'll go back to in-person testimony. So first from Assemblymember Boris.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for having me, Tricia. Good to see so many friends there. I think I saw Kyle earlier, and if so, congratulations on a wonderful, wonderful tenure on the Community Board 6, leading that group. And to any other friends that are there, it is just the resolution on my screen. That is why I'm not giving you a personal hello, but thank you for all the work that you do. I'm here to talk about the importance of allowing hybrid options, virtual options for community boards. The changes that were implemented during the pandemic enabled many more people to participate in community boards that couldn't previously. And community boards are at their best when they involve everyone in the community. And that includes those that may have accessibility issues, for which having virtual options makes it much easier, as well as those with just young children or other conflicts, whereby being able to sign in from home and fully pay attention, but still be near their children, makes it much more easier to contribute to their community. And so I join the many here who are advocating for allowing virtual options to continue. As you all know, the initial option to do so was put in through the state budget process in 2022. That law expires in July of 2024. And so we will be looking at it in Albany for what exactly to renew and what to fix. But I remain very committed to being able to do so. I've introduced a bill, A 8049, that's A 8049, which we're calling the Access for All bill, that Senator Fernandez will be carrying in the Senate. That will allow community boards specifically to still have quorum counted for those who are participating virtually and to have a virtual option. There are many different versions of bills. I know my colleague, Assemblymember Tony Simone, has introduced one, and Harvey Epstein has introduced one for CECs. And I'm pretty indifferent about which of the bills go forward and exactly how expansive they are, as long as we are providing some way to continue to provide this. And I also want to thank both Community Board 8 and Community Board 6 that have passed resolutions in support of this bill, A 8049. And I know I'm engaging with Community Board 5 and others as well in order to do that. So I thank you all for all that you do day in and day out to care for your communities. I hope we are able to provide this flexibility to you, which again, none of these bills would require you to meet virtually, but give you the option to if that went along with your bylaws. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you in order to provide that flexibility and make sure Albany allows you to run your boards as you see fit. Thank you so much for inviting me to testify, and I look forward to the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. Dawn, can we please promote Ken Coughlin, then David Holoka, Charles Nye, and Lori Boris? Oh, thank you. Mr. Coughlin, you can go ahead and start when you're ready. You are muted, so we'll try Mr. Coughlin again. Oh, there you go.
Okay,
Yep, you're unmuted. You're good.
okay, sorry. Hello, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces. Wish I could be there in person, but it's nice to have the option to be virtual. My name is Ken Coughlin. I'm a member of Manhattan Community Board 7, although I'm speaking like Beverly on my own behalf and not for the board. I was gratified when the state legislature finally modernized the open meetings law, but the final legislation was disappointing because it required a full quorum of a community board or committee to appear at meetings in person and granted waivers from physical attendance only under extraordinary circumstances. These are, to my mind, unnecessary and paternalistic requirements that evidence a lack of trust in local bodies like community boards to make their own decisions about whether it is safe and advisable to meet in person. The quorum requirement renders entirely virtual meetings impossible if there were a dramatic resurgence in the COVID virus or the emergence of another highly contagious disease or other emergency. Community boards would have to again rely on emergency orders from the governor to meet virtually. The quorum restriction has also forced boards to establish cumbersome rules and procedures for granting members waivers from meeting in person. And under current law, those who need to attend virtually must have their name and the reason for their waiver publicly announced. The open meetings law should be amended to allow public bodies like community boards to make their own decisions on whether to hold hybrid or entirely virtual meetings and to establish their own rules for such meetings. As all of us who have convened virtually during the height of the pandemic and who have returned to in-person meetings know, the value of being in the physical presence of other board members and the public is great, both in terms of maintaining collegiality and in getting work done. No board would lightly make a decision to return to virtual meetings, and no board member who wishes to be most effective would want to attend a meeting by Zoom given the choice. But local boards must be trusted to make this choice on their own, and we should be granted the flexibility to do so, as Senator Hoylman Siegel's original legislation envisioned. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Coughlin. Next, we're gonna go with David Haloka, and then Dawn, again, if you could please promote Charles Nye and then Lori Boris. Go ahead, David, whenever you're ready.
I'm David Haloka, a member of CB4 and serve on 2 committees. I would prefer that all CB4 meetings be conducted by video conference. Here are my reasons. I hear every word in a Zoom meeting and miss as much as 20% of what's said at in-person meetings because of poor acoustics or background noise. As I discovered last week when I participated remotely in a hybrid full board meeting because I had COVID, it's impossible for remote listeners to hear the votes of other members who attend in person, as they don't have microphones and vote from their seats. I would have liked to know how individual members voted on our letters. There's less of a sense of community when some community members are in person and others are on screen. One co-chair of each of my committees participates remotely, so the co-chairs are never even together anyway. As an architect, I'm very sensitive to accessibility. The principle of universal design calls for equalizing access for all, regardless of disability. Hybrid meetings, by contrast, marginalize the immunocompromised. Going all in person would be a violation of the very spirit of accessibility. Attendance is better and easier with remote meetings, and I can attend even while traveling. In-person meetings put attendees at greater risk of COVID, which is still with us. Many of us on community boards are retirees who have the time for membership. For those of us who are older, getting to a physical meeting can be difficult and even hazardous in poor weather. Older members are also more likely to be caretakers for elderly partners, increasing their vulnerability to COVID infection. There doesn't seem to be any real upside to in-person attendance. There's nothing I missed or regretted when we switched to all remote during the peak period of COVID. I immediately appreciated being able to hear everything that was said. My own attendance improved. It's by now a quaint notion that only in-person meetings can be considered public and open. I'm sure it would be easier to make laptop stations available to the few community members who don't have internet access than to continue with in-person meetings. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Charles Nye, then Lori Boris, and then we'll go back to in-person testimony from Lindsay Cormack, Tammy Meltzer, and Daria Harden.
Hello, my name is Charles Nye. I'm a member of Community Board 5 in Manhattan. I'm a blind person and I'm hard of hearing. And I wanted to say that it's really important to have hybrid. I wouldn't be able to basically be a community board member without the Zoom option. It really helps me a lot as some of the locations are inaccessible to me. For example, today's full board meeting that we're having at Community Board 5 is in a building with no accessible bathrooms and, and in a very difficult location. Before I was a member of my community board, I was actually a public speaker for about 2 years, 2 or 3 years through the pandemic. And what inspired me to be a public speaker was the fact that there was that Zoom option. Before that, I couldn't participate as a public speaker because I couldn't get to the locations. So I really feel like for New Yorkers with disabilities, especially mobility disabilities or blindness and so forth, I feel like they could have more of a voice and be able to participate like I did, become a public speaker, join in the conversation, and then do I did and take the step further and say, hey, why not apply to be a member and go that step further. So I'm very grateful that at the moment we have this option, but I think it should be universal to people who have disabilities and people who don't. And also, I am concerned that for the chairs, if they have a medical issue, at the moment they can't be, they're excluded from the virtual option, whereas for a regular board member like myself, having disability, I'm not excluded from that. So I'm not too sure why that is like that at the moment. I just wanted to finish up by quickly saying just one quick point, which is I wanted to speak as a public speaker at Community Board 3 last week about the closure of Beth Israel, but I couldn't participate because they didn't have a hybrid option. So I do hope that more community boards will have the hybrid option so that people don't feel excluded and they have an option to speak. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's time. We're going to go next to Lori Borres, and then we'll take some speaker testimony from the public. Go ahead, Lori, whenever you're ready.
Hi, hello, everyone. In full disclosure, I am Alex Boris's mom. So obviously I support, his legislation. But I'm also a member of Community Board 8, and which has passed a resolution regarding this matter. And I just want to say that I believe that accessibility is the key word, and that since we've gone virtual during the pandemic, we've had much greater participation in our meetings. And I think that that sets an example to people of what can be done if you join a community board. There's been a lot more exposure to what community boards do because of this option. And I understand the problems that occur with hybrid meetings, but I think that that's just a technology thing that can be, once you've worked it out and gotten a little bit of funding for it, it works. So that's really all I have to say. I believe that community boards need to be open to people, and a lot more people are drawn into the process when you have the virtual option. So I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Okay, we're going to go to public testimony from Lindsay Cormack, Tammy Meltzer, Daria Hardiman. I'm just going to ask for the in-person speakers to come over here just because it's easier for the camera to see you, and I hope the speakers to pick you up. And then we'll go back to some virtual testimony. So Lindsay, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. I offer this testimony as an unpartnered parent and as a professor who has taught in hybrid situations, in fully remote situations, and in person. I feel like I understand the benefits and the drawbacks of each. I'm also a member of Community Board 8, being someone who joined in the pandemic and has now transitioned into a person who's attending our full board meetings in person. I think the flexibility for community boards to determine the things that work for them is the thing that should happen here. Right now, how we've done it in Community Board 8 is our smaller committee meetings have been all online, all conducted through Zoom, and this has allowed for more robust participation, and it has made it so that we don't have to secure physical locations for all the different meetings that we have. However, we have our full board meetings in person with some exceptions for people who need to miss, whether that be through child caring or adult caring or through health things or through travel. All of these excuses have to be run through our borough office first, and then once excused, these people fully participate by having their cameras on and their speakers on as well. I support a hybrid modified solution that allows community boards to determine what works best for them, that allows participation of the most people. By having things on Zoom, we've also increased the transparency of what we do in community boards, something that many other people have spoke to already. A hybrid style that aims to balance both the practicality and participation seems necessary, and I trust that we can get something done that makes sense for all of us.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Tammy Meltzer and Daria Hardiman. Hardiman, you can see it right here whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I am Tammy Meltzer, I'm chair of Manhattan Community Board 1. We found during the pandemic being online enabled us, we were probably one of the first community boards to go online, to really increase our public access and engagement, but also created an environment that was much more casual and often incurred far longer meetings. We currently, post-pandemic, operate in a hybrid form where we have had much success and much concern. So I'll lay that out as we go forward. The majority of our board preferred to be hybrid versus fully remote, but many of our fully in-person requests continue to come based on the issues that we have. Achieving quorum has been problematic. For whatever reason it is, whether it is from extraordinary circumstances or qualified disability or people running late, committee meetings and quorum have been a super challenge. And that challenge ends up sitting back on the office, because the office is then required to then be calling or checking by email and phone to ensure that we can meet quorum requirements. Technology is expensive and it's not always trouble-free based on bandwidth, and we can't control that. Our offices being in a city building, bandwidth is sometimes good, sometimes not good. Issues that happen with technology, it is not always 100% reliable. Our office has been set up for 3 years with technology, and yet we still have, even with fantastic equipment, issues, sometimes with sound, sometimes with cameras. The people who are online, you are dependent on their amount of bandwidth. Not everyone has the money to afford the highest bandwidth or the best technology, the best speakers, the best microphones, and the best headphones. Therefore, you can get people online, whether it's someone who is speaking to the board from the public or a board member who is online, who you cannot hear clearly, who cuts in and out, and that actually detracts from the ability to conduct a robust meeting. And people then spend much time complaining about how that works. And there is no parity for technology across the city. We don't have the budget in Community Board 1 to be able to update and do as much as we can in terms of technology, because budgets are tight everywhere in the city. Not only is the increase hard for the workforce, but you have to imagine when you go outside of our conference room to a full board meeting, you have a staff that is dragging the equipment with you everywhere they need to go in order to set it up. That's kind of untenable. One more thing. Looking ahead, we would hope, no matter what the state decides, that they would allow the community boards to have their own determination on how they conduct committee and full board meetings for hybrid, virtual, or in person. And that when you interview and ask public servants to commit, that you understand whether they can be in person or they need to be remote to help our quorum issues and hybrid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Daria Hardiman, and then we'll go back to virtual. Rebecca Rabel, Kathleen Collins, Maxine Barnes will all be following Ms. Hardiman. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
My name is Daria Hardiman. I did not write this down, so I hopefully won't go over. I serve on Community Board 9. I am the Arts and Culture co-chair there. I just wanted to lend my voice to advocate for hybrid meetings, or actually the ability for each community board to choose for themselves. In our particular community board, arts and culture, my last meeting, I could not even meet quorum. There are 10 members, I couldn't meet quorum because of the in-person mandate. However, when we were fully virtual, I would sometimes have 30, 40 people on my meeting, which I've been on Community Board 9 for 9 years. And before virtual, we never had that many people at a meeting. 10, 12 people would be the most. So it definitely expanded. Being virtual definitely expands our accessibility. I understand that the reason for this is we're trying to go back to normal. However, I think going back is the problem. I believe that the issue is, the rest of the world is moving forward, just in general. And we're thinking about trying to get back to something when I think it is a brave new world and we have to move with it. COVID is another thing, the spreading of it, it's flu season, it's COVID season, and hybrid is hard. Hybrid meetings just make more sense, and not having to have an in-person forum makes more sense. The individual community boards being able to make their own decisions on what works best for them makes more sense. The last thing that I wanted to say is that locations. In Community Board 9, we have a small office. We have 2 small spaces, but they're still kind of small. So for a full board meeting, we have an issue. So the hybrid helps with the location issue part.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hardiman. Next, we're gonna go to virtual hands. Again, Rebecca Rabel, Kathleen Collins, Maxine Barnes, Ann Seligman, and then JD Nolan. We'll do 5. And if anybody here from the public would like to sign up to speak, please come over, just come to me and we'll put you on the list. Ms. Rabel, whenever you're ready. Ms. Rabel, you're still not unmuted.
So sorry. Hi, my name is Rebecca Rabel. I'm on 2 SLT school leadership teams for 2 different districts, District 20 and District 22 in Brooklyn. Pre-COVID, our important meetings, FACE, PEP, District, DLT, SLT, as well as PA and PTA meetings have continuously failed to capture the full representation of the served communities. And this has always been because of scheduling. There's an inherent division between working and working from home families versus stay-at-home families with regard to timing availability for the meetings. The simple and proven solution that showed itself during COVID was the online meeting option. Meetings and trainings have historically been chronically handicapped by the scheduling time. If the meeting was held in the morning, then it favored non-working and work from home families, which are now increasing. And if the meeting was scheduled for an evening or afternoon time slot, the majority of the attendees would be working families. The failed attempt to create fairness within the structure by holding every other meeting in the other's time slot was a non-solution. Different meeting topics held every other week, all of them require full attendance by the impacted parties. And the in-person only requirement policy goes against the making meetings at a time convenient to parent members rule of school leadership teams. There is inherently no such thing as one convenient meeting time for parent groups. Stipend money to be used for childcare also fails to appreciate the finding of said quality finding the quality childcare, because 3 hours a month, it's just not feasible to even find someone to perform that duty. The same barriers apply for teachers and administration who deserve family time as well. Making these meetings mandatory in person pits breaking union contracts against meeting attendance. Post and throughout COVID, online meetings and trainings became a proven miracle solution. Online meetings were well attended and created real representation for all types of families. It cut down on the unruliness of some larger meetings, making them better run and more efficient. Therefore, it is this parent's personal opinion that it's in our school community's best interest to hold on to the ability to use online meetings to break these barriers and enable more opportunities for all to participate. Please consider all of the benefits of full online meeting options and adopt that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Kathleen Collins, Maxine Barnes, Ann Seligman, JD Nolan. But Miss Collins, if you don't mind holding on for 1 second, I just want to check the Q&A. What is the person's director? Mr. Nolan, you're confirmed. Miss Hussein, you're I think you're on the list. Yep, you're confirmed. Other questions I'll answer shortly, but I want to continue on with testimony here. So again, we'll go to Kathleen Collins, Maxine Barnes, Ann Seligman, JD Nolan, and then we'll take more testimony from the public. Go ahead, Ms. Collins, whenever you're ready.
Thank you for letting me testify before you here today. I am a co-coordinator at Downstate New York Adapt, and native New Yorker with a disability since birth. Downstate New York Adapt is a grassroots non-hierarchical community of people with all types of disabilities advocating for the civil rights of people with disabilities, including but not limited to the right to live and fully participate in the community. The right to petition the legislature and for the legislators to hear directly from their constituents is basic to our democracy and is enshrined in the United States and New York State constitutions. The ability to speak directly to community boards and other governmental officials at meetings and hearings is central to that right. At hearings open to the public, community boards are given the opportunity to better understand how proposals they are reviewing will affect their constituents, what priorities they should set, and how state policies and local policies already in place are working. We all know that technology and the pandemic have clearly demonstrated that hybrid meetings are not only possible, but demanded by all your constituents. In order to be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 as amended, a federal civil rights statute, the legislature must extend Section 103A of the New York State Open Meetings Law and require that all meetings and hearings open to the public be hybrid and provide full access in person and virtually. Your constituents with disabilities, civil rights to participate fully in the civic life of their community on the state, county, city, and local level cannot and will not be denied. We urge you to extend that the legislature extend the Open Meetings Law, Section 103A, to ensure that all New Yorkers' civil rights to participate in their government is promoted and protected. I know that you mentioned today about funding, and I think the fact that the community boards are not being properly funded needs to be addressed, and that we do need more funding for this. We need access, and so therefore funding should be a high priority. Another thing is about technology. Technology, that's an issue that can be rectified. I know it's a learning curve, but I believe that with proper training, people can learn to be more comfortable with doing hybrid and that. And we here at Downstate New York Adapt, we're more than happy to help anybody learning more about accessibility. And we're a volunteer group, and we'd be happy to help you with making things more accessible. We really believe that. I know it says that, just one last thing, that I know you're saying that it's a make their own decision, but the problem with that is that civil rights will be violated. And there is a federal statute that requires effective communication at public meetings. And the community boards are governmental meetings. And at the most basic level, they affect our lives in all areas. So we submit that it should not be a may, it should be a must.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Collins. Just a reminder to everybody, I know that it's tough with the time frame, but you please do submit your full testimony and any additional thoughts you'd like to have to our office. We'll provide it in the chat, and I'll say it again. You can go to our website, manhattanbp.nyc.gov. At the very front top of the page, there's a green bar that says submit your testimony here. You can click on that link and it will generate a direct email, and we'll go into, we've already received well over 50 pieces of testimony through that link. So please submit your full testimony there. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Barnes, then Ms. Seligman, and JD Nolan. So Ms. Barnes, whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I am a community leader and a Block Association President Emeritus. I have actively participated in my community board for the last 10 years. In-person must be reinstated immediately, and virtual an option. A hybrid is the platform that is essential to truly include community residents in this process. It has been my experience, especially with the critical issues facing our community now. It has been my experience and my community residents, the public experience, to witness the online platform used to weaponize, demonize, and to silence community, muting community, and interrupting community. I have personally experience not being able to respond to statements directly directed specifically to my stated concerns. That is not real dialogue. Delayed notification to community board meetings, absent agendas to constructively allow community to participate. All the community does not have internet access or the ability to navigate the internet. It is not fair. It is not conducive to the open meeting laws. A hybrid and platform is essential. You should have a choice. This meeting is an example of the violation of the open meetings law. We are not able to utilize the chat. We can't even see who's participating in the meeting. It is not conducive to include community and to say that you want to go exclusively virtual. It has to be a hybrid platform, allowing those who do not have internet access to participate, allowing those who cannot go in person to do virtually, a choice, not a one exclusive platform being virtual. It takes longer. The mic doesn't work. This doesn't work. It takes longer. And we have lives. We have to work to pay our taxes and to take care of our family. Those meetings are extended because of the virtual platform. We should have a choice. Thank you for listening and allowing me to speak. And I hope you will finally, at this time, consider the community. It's a community board, not a board. And the community is being denied on all the fronts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Seligman, then JD Nolan, and then we'll go to take more in-person testimony from Gina Williams and Victor Edwards. Go ahead, Anne, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm a member of Manhattan Community Board 6, but like all of us, I am speaking as an individual, and I am speaking in favor of continuing at least some in-person meetings. I want to acknowledge the burden on board staff to find spaces in our case, for full board meetings, and traveling for board members, and the cost and hassle of Zoom or a hybrid option. However, something is really lost with no in-person meetings or even hybrid meetings, whether it's the chit chat where you make a personal connection or the opportunity to follow up on a one-liner in a meeting. There's a real value that's lost purely online. Think about how kids did in school over just Zoom. Not great, right? Last night at full board, I got a chance to speak to some new members and caucused with other committee members about a resolution we're wrestling with. Yes, there's more effort, and maybe there should be exemptions and quorum changes, and certainly the public should be allowed to attend via Zoom. Another proposal I suggested when board members were surveyed was having a mix of Zoom and in-person meetings, maybe 3 or 4 times a year in person. Maybe try that as an experiment and see how it works. Some people think Zoom is more democratic and accessible, but as we just heard, there's also a population that either struggles with technology or doesn't have access. Given a choice between all Zoom and all in person, I would choose in person, despite the fact that I'm on Zoom now and the weather might convince me otherwise. I want our board to be responsive, productive, and creative. And I think in-person meetings help make that happen. We're all better together. And I know I'm at 2 minutes, but I just want to mention one last thing. The vote last night on Assembly Bill 8049 was not unanimous. I at least voted against it. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you. And thank you for your time. Thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to JD Nolan, and then we'll take some in-person testimony from Gina Williams, Victor Edwards, and the Manhattan Borough President. JD, whenever you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you so much. My name is Jean-Daniel Noland. I'm a member of Community Board 4, former chair of Board 4. I'm not speaking for the board, but I have vetted my comments with the chair and the district manager. I have one comment and 3 suggestions. First of all, I agree with everything everybody has said. It's great. During the pandemic, as you all know, we went back and forth with virtual meetings, in-person meetings. There was a month when we had to go back and meet in person when the pandemic was still raging. This is unconscionable. It should not happen again. I have 3 suggestions. 1, the district manager and the chair of each board should be able to decide on protocols for meetings. They should be able to make a decision on how best to protect the members of the board and the public if it is a meeting in person. That is, they should be able to have the authority to have people wear masks or sit 6 feet apart or whatever it is. At the moment, we do not have that ability. Secondly, the borough president should be able to have the authority to make a quick decision if there is inclement weather, dangerous weather, or if the CDC says there is a danger of infection. The borough president should have a decision, should have the ability to make a decision quickly about whether a board should meet or not. This should not wait for a decision to be reached in Albany. Thirdly, if we are going to have virtual meetings, then I think everybody should be required to attend along with the members of a community board. That is, the elected officials and the agencies should also be required to attend the meeting and not do it on the screen. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to those who are here in person. We'll go to Gina Williams and then Mr. Edwards. Go ahead, Ms. Williams, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you for having me here today. So my name is Gina Williams and I attend 3 community board meetings actually in Manhattan, 9, 10, and 11. I'm also a member of the Community Education Council for District 5. So it can be sometimes a struggle if you want to be in person and then you have another meeting that is overlapping and you need to get on the Zoom. However, right now we're living in a climate where safety concerns are an issue for not only our youth who want to participate in these meetings, but for our seniors. So there should definitely be a hybrid as an option so that every constituent has their voice being heard. The other thing is that even with the hybrid option, there's the control issue. I do agree with that there is a control issue on silencing voices sometimes when people would like to speak. Whoever is hosting the Zoom will probably not acknowledge, or they won't allow a type in for the chat. And so if those issues can be resolved and it is an open space for everyone to put a comment, a question, etc., and to be addressed equally and efficiently, hybrid is a great choice for all of the above reasons that I have named. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Edwards, who I think we can see okay here.
Thank you.
Go ahead and start.
Yes, good morning all. My name is Victor Edwards. I have the pleasure of chairing Community Board 9. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as we have not passed a resolution on this. But I was glad during the pandemic we came into the 21st century with virtual meetings and continued now with hybrid. One of the issues with the hybrid meetings, we're limited as far as meeting space and time. Our general board's meeting is held in a space that we can only stay till 9 o'clock. We have to move out by then. I'm in favor of hybrid, but I would like to see the caveat to include all members, whether they're virtual or in person, to be quorum for voting. I've tried to attend many of the meetings. I was at 2 meetings this month and both did not reach quorum. They could not vote on resolutions that we had before the board. So as I said, I'm in favor of it, but I would like to see it where quorum is counted virtually and in person. That's fine. Sure, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edwards. We're going to hear next from our Manhattan Borough President, and then we'll go to the next 5 folks who are signed up virtually. You, whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Tricia. This has already been a great hearing. I'm so gratified by how many people have come out to testify, both here in person and virtually. And I agree with the sentiment expressed by so many of you that the hybrid regime we've had in place right now, while not perfect, and I'll address some of the issues, has given a welcome measure of flexibility to boards and to the public to participate even if they have complicated childcare issues, for example, to participate even if they have physical or medical limitations that make it hard to show up in person. But unlike those difficult days of the pandemic, I also think there's been benefits to the in-person segment where it is important for there to be a place where people can come to see each other, both as board members and as members of the public. But doing all that at the same time has been very challenging. It's technically challenging to do it in a way where everyone can hear each other and see each other, whether they're in person or online. And it's more work for the boards. It's more work to book the right kind of room. It's more work to manage the technology. And boards are already understaffed. And so we've been on record calling for an increase to board budgets. There are a variety of functions that I think justify that, but especially in this time of virtual meetings, boards need a greater budget to handle the technology and the staffing to do this right. I do acknowledge the point that Victor just raised of how complicated it can be to get quorum, and that really makes me feel sad to hear about recent meetings where you probably had enough people online but just couldn't count for quorum because of that rule. Anyway, this question is being called now because the current virtual regime is going to expire in about 6 months. So we've got to get this solved before then. I don't think anyone wants to default back into an all in-person. Well, very few of those who have testified it for sure want to default back into the pre-pandemic all in-person rules. So that does give us a little bit of a kind of forces the question. We've got legislation moving in Albany. I know we heard testimony from Assembly Member Boris, who's got a bill that would address much of this. So let's work together now to fix this before that deadline. You definitely have a partner in our office in doing this right. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, VP. Next, we're gonna go to Miriam Fisher, Paulette Healy, Mark Diller, Alicia B. If you could just please give us your last name, and then Xavier Santiago. In that order, Ms. Fisher, whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, actually, I want to reiterate and summarize some of the points made by one of my colleagues, Kathy Collins, as a representative of disability organizations. The pandemic created a multitude of unintended practices and policies that would enhance our lives, including virtual meetings and closed captionings. Opened the door for participation of many previously unheard voices, people with health issues, disabilities, those fearful of public meetings or with conflicting schedules. It gave participants a venue to express their concerns of issues that affect their lives. I am concerned that individual board decisions would exclude full participation and go only in person, despite what was just said by Borough President Levine. As a parallel example, I live in Chelsea. There are meetings with the local police department, Build the Block, and they have gone from virtual to in-person only, saying how happy we are to all see each other. I haven't been able to attend in the months they've gone in person. It can't exclude people. I think there has to be a general regulation that meetings will be including everyone, both in person, hybrid, virtual, but be sure that there is no exclusion of people with disabilities and maintain accessibility. There are also technical difficulties, as people have expressed, both with expertise, technology. I propose public funding and training to enable full participations for all of us so that we can have a say in issues that affect our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Paulette Healy, Mark Diller, Alicia B., then Xavier Santiago.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you so much for this opportunity, Borough President Levine. My name is Paulette Healy. I am a special education and District 75 community advocate. And I am here to speak in favor of maintaining the hybrid option, but removing the quorum requirement. For the past 10 years, advocates like myself went to Albany advocating that every community education council should have D75 representation. At the conclusion of this particular election cycle, it was a landmark election because we finally were able to vote that in. However, out of the 32 local community education councils, 9 did not achieve electing a District 75 member, and 6 months into the new term, we now have 15 community education councils without District 75 members. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they cannot participate if the CEC is only allowing an in-person option. Some of them are people with disabilities. They have children with disabilities, and without having a hybrid option to participate, it limits their access in terms of advocating for their community and making sure that decisions that that the CECs are making are conducive to the District 75 families that reside in that district as well. The problem with the hybrid option as it stands, and I'll give you an example. I myself have sat on the Citywide Council for Special Education for the past 5 years. And when we had to go into a hybrid option with District 75 Council, we were literally each in a different classroom at the District 75 Superintendent's office on our own devices in person. What sense does that make? To go into a building, into a separate classroom, we're not even sitting together in one room, and we're utilizing our own devices in order to get on a Zoom so that we can hold a hybrid meeting. Our councils are not budgeted for this. We do not have staff for this. And if we continue along this route and force us back into an in-person option only, it will limit the accessibility for many of us who are disabled and can only advocate in these particular spaces. Also, I live in District 20 in Bay Ridge. I attended my local CEC meeting in October where there was over 250 angry people going into a meeting to protest something that had nothing to do with our district. And it was a dangerous environment to be in. Our neighborhood community officers were in attendance at that meeting and they were afraid for their own safety. So in this landscape that we're dealing with, we should not be prioritizing someone's comfort over the safety of our members, especially since we're volunteers. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're gonna go to Mark Diller, then Alicia B. Go ahead whenever you're ready, Mark.
Thank you so much for hearing me. My whole life is community boards. I am a member of one and an employee of another, and I'm gratified to see my two chairs sitting next to each other there. And I'm grateful to the borough president for appointing me to the Civic Engagement Commission, but alas, I'm speaking only on behalf of myself today. I want to reinforce the point that's, I believe, already made about the unprecedented ability to have outreach and engagement of the public. I was the chair of a board that held, with the borough president's help, had a Zoom meeting that was attended by 1,389 people expressing their views about the use of hotels for relief of homeless shelters during the depths of the pandemic. That could not have happened in person. I want to talk about the challenges that I believe have already been articulated, but those who have seen me traversing Greenwich Village with my gigantic red cart with a boatload of equipment to try to have an in-person and hybrid meeting in the same space at the same time, as the two chairs have already outlined, with fewer and fewer venues willing to hear us, is something that is, it's a point of amusement in my office, but it is a challenge for us. Those who say that there is better behavior in person is like blaming the telephone for a robocall. One thing we need is the elimination of the in-person quorum requirement. It's not perfect, but this is a situation where the perfect is the enemy of the good. Finally, there is a city administrative code section that requires community boards to, quote, make available for broadcast our meetings. No one quite knows what that means. And in addition to qualifying the quorum requirement, we need better guidance on that, probably through regulation or legislation. That's my time. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Alicia B.
Hello, my name is Alicia Boyd. I had a lot of difficulty getting onto this Zoom platform. It took me over a half an hour, which basically shows you that Zoom is not the answer. I also represent a very low to moderate income community, and a lot of my residents have been unable to participate in community board meetings because they are not in person, because they don't have the technology. I noticed that the conversation has been dominated by community board members, and yet where's the public? You don't see the public speaking. Everybody's talking about the best interest of the public, but where's the public in this hearing? Means that there was no outreach to the public because the public is not here. Everybody is a community board member here and a community board member there, and but where's the public? Also, when you do Zoom meetings exclusively, you can't see who's at the meeting. In my community board, there is no chat. So you can't chat with your neighbors. You can't chat with the other board members. You are completely silent. You can't see who's even attending the meetings until they let you unmute, until they promote you. And then if they don't like what you're saying, they just throw you out of the meeting. That can't be done in an in-person meeting. You can't just throw someone out of a meeting. But at the Zoom platform, it makes it very convenient to be able to disrespect the public. The other issue is everybody's talking about quorum, as if quorum was never an issue before COVID-19. Quorum has always been an issue with community boards. Community boards have always, for the last 35 years, had to struggle with finding a place. Well, they've been able to do it. The city charter demands that the borough president sits there and finds them a place, and they get places. So the fact that all of a sudden you're going to have all of these problems with quorum is not really genuine. This is an issue that you always had and will continue to have. Thus, I suggest that there be a hybrid, but that all of the members of an agency be present, physically present, to ensure that quorum is established. Otherwise, community board members will go to a public meeting and there will be no members of that public, of the agency. No, there will be nobody there. Okay, you might even have just the district manager, and all the community board members are virtual, and yet I can come to a public meeting and not be able to speak to the people who are representing me. And that's the issue. The issue is during Zoom, I had not been able to speak to any board member that was representing me. I couldn't communicate with them. I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't tell them what my ideas were. I couldn't talk about my concerns, and I could not create relationships. That's what happens in in-person meetings. You are able to create relationships with the members of the community that you're supposed to be representing. So I would like for the borough president to think about all those poor people who don't have access to internet, who can't go to online, and the way in which some community boards, I'm not saying all community boards, but some community boards weaponize chat and weaponize the Zoom platform to reduce participation and not allow the community to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Okay, next we're going to go to Xavier Santiago. Unless there's any additional members of the public people who would like to speak here in person, then we're going to go to Xavier Santiago, Samir Lavinia, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Sahar Hussein, Paul Wolf. Whenever you're ready, Xavier.
First, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the borough president for convening us together to be able to hear testimony. I will be speaking from both the position of chair and as an individual member of the public, having observed both the triumphs and trials of the virtual environment. As many of you may recall, when Bloomberg was our mayor, he had advocated for changes that would have afforded a more diverse profile of all community boards. However, he encountered issues with both the city charter and open meetings law, and unfortunately was not able to proceed. At the beginning of the pandemic, we also went virtual very quickly and found that as we increased our membership, we had a more diverse profile across all demographics. As we have emerged from the pandemic, even though COVID is still present, we have had a rate of attrition of that diversification. And that is a significant loss for representation of this community. As we have proceeded forward, we have had and maintained a hybrid environment where our meetings are held at our storefront office for committees and then full board as we traverse through the neighborhood. However, that is not without challenges, including but not limited to procuring the videographers and the cost increases at both the venues and for the general rates for those videographers we have hired. I think it's important that as this goes forward, giving community boards the opportunity to make a decision that is in the best interest of their community's participation would be most fruitful in the long term. Several of our committee members and community members and even members of the public have said that having virtual participation for the committees on their own would be helpful, but then convening in public where we can build those relationships and come face to face and conducting our business. So in furtherance of this, we would like to see a passage, and I would personally like to see passage that affords community boards individually to make their own decisions on what's best. So thank you very much for the time and happy holidays to all.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Samir, then Sahar, then Paul Wolf, then Justine Kusia.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me speak. I am a member of Community Board 5, but I'm speaking as a member of the public. I believe that we should allow for fully virtual meeting options for all community boards. It's simply a lot easier to manage meetings where you're able to mute people if they go over time or if they go off topic and just avoid crosstalk generally. In person, we wouldn't allow people to speak at the same time as the speaker, so I don't see why we would allow chat either. All the arguments I've heard for allowing in person are honestly just asking people asking to enable their bad behavior, and I think that Zoom clamps down on that quite significantly and it makes meetings a lot more efficient. I think we should also think about people with kids and making these meetings just more accessible generally. One of my friends is on a different community board and is considering not reapplying because they have to spend many hours a month at meetings in person. With the in-person requirements, his partner must either stay home with the kids, or if she wants to go out, they need to hire a babysitter. I'm not saying that we should pay community board members, but the idea that a community board member needs to pay someone else in order to go to a meeting is a little bit silly to me. If we were allowed virtual meetings, they would still be able to pay full attention, but just be home, just in case. I believe that either via consistent bylaws or another process, we should require a virtual option for community boards so members of the public can attend. I don't think it should be up to the individual community board to decide if they want virtual or not. I think it should be a requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Sahar Hussain, then Sahar Hussain, then Paul Wolf, Justine Kusia, and then Valentina Jones. Whenever you're ready, Sahar.
You can hear me now. Hi,
Yes.
thank you so much for this. Hi, Tricia. Hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I want to testify today that I'm definitely in favor of hybrid meetings and that they should continue. I'm with Community Board 8, one of the board members, also the co-chair of the Environment Committee. I'm one of the newer board members, joined last year. And I can definitely tell you, as one who has, who's a caretaker of her kids and also a working professional, that having a hybrid meeting is very practical, makes people who have kids much easier to join and be a part of the board, and to be able to and be productive as well. So it also, I feel, gives an opportunity for the public actually to join. And when we are conducting our environment committee meeting, I know for sure that there's so many people who join in on the Zoom and would not be able to join in person at that point. People, they sometimes join for a bit, join in, hear the thing, and then they leave, or they join for the full period, and they are able to, speak their mind, ask us questions as well. So I think it's a very effective method. We also, on our boards, on Community Board 8, our full board meetings are basically in person with the option that if anyone is unwell or another emergency or is traveling, then, with an excused reason given before, that they can be on Zoom. But there are very few people that would be there on Zoom. The rest, all of us, would be in person. So I think that situation is extremely good. that having the committees on on Zoom, and the full board meeting having an option of hybrid only with emergencies, or if somebody's extremely sick, makes it more efficient that everyone can participate and be productive as well. It also, I mean, COVID is still not over, and there are so many other illnesses as well that are prevalent, and they are very contagious. So I think it keeps all of us safe. So I think it is very good for our community if we have both the options. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to, again, Paul Wolf, Justine Cusia, Valentina Jones, and we're going to go back to in-person testimony with Lupe Hernandez. So, Mr. Wolf, Paul Wolf, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Paul Wolf. I serve as president of the New York Coalition for Open Government. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that advocates for transparency in government. We support hybrid meetings. We believe New York State is behind the times, and truthfully, New York State has been behind the times from day one. It's kind of interesting. The first state to pass an open meetings law, which a lot of people are surprised to hear, was Alabama in 1915. The last state to pass an open meetings law, New York, 1976. So New York is behind the times, has been behind the times for a lot of things in regarding the open meetings law. The current hybrid law, what we don't like about it is it's geared towards public body members. So a hybrid meeting only occurs if a public body member can't attend in person. We think all meetings should be mandatory hybrid. It shouldn't be just because a member of the body can't attend, only then can the public, observe a meeting virtually. It should be mandatory that all meetings are live streamed, all meetings are hybrid. I understand the quorum concerns. We strongly support continuing in-person quorum requirement for elected bodies. Other bodies, perhaps, maybe state agencies, things of that nature, perhaps maybe the in-person quorum could be relaxed. But I think for community boards and elected bodies, it's important to have that in-person quorum requirement. 2 states mandate live streaming meetings right now, Oregon and Indiana. Several other states, it's been proposed in Virginia, Mississippi, Rhode Island, and Maryland. And we think it should be a state requirement. We think funding should also be a part of this. Understand the technology concerns, and there's some costs here. And there should be funding to assist groups with making this happen. So I appreciate you doing this and allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Let's go to Justine Cusia, whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. I think you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Justine Cuccia, and I am a board member on Manhattan Community Board 1, and also very active in my community. I am speaking on my own behalf here. I do not speak for my board. I want to make it clear that I am fully supporting of maintaining hybrid meetings, but I think we should eliminate the in-person quorum requirement for board members. The reason for this is that, number one, hybrid, more community participation, it has been exponentially increased, having the community participation since we've been hybrid. We've also had the ability with the recorded meetings, so many people who cannot attend the meetings actually come back and listen to the meetings in the past. Besides looking at, reading the testimony of it, having it on YouTube and being able to look for it, that's a wonderful thing. I think that in terms of addressing collegiality and interaction among the boards, requiring that the full board be in person and having that be a quorum requirement for the community board members. But of course, once again, hybrid so that the public can attend if they wish to, but elected officials and their staff could be required or not to come in person. I mean, it depends. At the end of the day, flexibility is the key, and having the funding to support the staff of the community boards and to ensure that people are able to attend, and that people who cannot attend virtually should be able to come in person. I also want to point out that as another reason to eliminate the in-person requirement for quorum is that being in Community Board 1, we are in the business district for congestion pricing. And for people who are disabled, who are elderly, who are just injured or sick, and they want to take a cab back and forth from the meetings, should they need to, there's going to be an extra burden on them financially for these volunteers to show up at these meetings. And I think that that should be taken into consideration for those community boards that are within the central business district. I think, am I out of time?
You are, but
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you for holding this hearing.
Great. We're going to go next to Valentina Jones, and then we'll take public testimony, in-person testimony again. Ms. Jones, whenever you're ready.
My name is Valentina Jones, and I'm here on behalf of the Lower East Side Power Partnership. Our concern is safety at public meetings. According to the U.S. EPA, an important approach to lowering the concentration of indoor air pollutants or contaminants, including any virus that may be in the air, is to increase ventilation, the amount of outdoor air coming indoors. LESPP would like consideration that New York should allow city municipal buildings with inherent ventilation windows, such as City Hall, be made available. According to the above cited EPA article, administrative practices that encourage remote participation and reduce room occupancy can help reduce risk from the virus that causes COVID-19. LESPP advocates for consideration to include questions submitted in advance for Zoom response, assigned person to monitor Zoom at the live event. The monitored person share questions from the Zoom, share Zoom audience polls at in-person events, share comments in the chat at live events. One issue of expense concerns finding a space that has dedicated strong Wi-Fi. LESPP would like consideration of community boards researching available space in their district that has dedicated strong Wi-Fi. Another issue of expenses concern costs for equipment and experienced people to do live streaming. LESPP would like consideration of one computer can be set up to show the speaker microphone that all speakers use during the live meeting. One computer can be set up to be passed to whoever at the board table is speaking and then passed where public speakers are shown. LESPP believes all community board members should make every effort to be physically present at the meetings. However, if unable to attend in person due to health reason or unforeseen circumstances, LESPP advocates for the following considerations based on Manhattan Community Board 4 policy. All community board members looking to participate remotely will contact the board chair, district manager, and/or office staff and relevant committee co-chairs with their request and explanation in advance of the committee as soon as humanly possible. All community board members attending the meeting virtually will be required to be heard, seen, and identified by both community board members and the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. Next we'll go to Lupe Hernandez. Hi, you just sit right up here and then whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. My name is Lupe Hernandez, and I'm coming to you in my own personal capacity as a New York City parent and advocate for many students with disabilities and special education. As a former borough president appointee on CECD2, we saw the engagement increase during the pandemic when there was a virtual option. I want to thank the state legislators for at least taking it to hybrid, but they left a lot of things out when it came to our community education councils and parent volunteers. We are not equipped, and nor does the DOE provide any type of staff or technology assistance. I thank the borough president for the owls that were gifted to the 6 CECs. However, even with those owls, engagement has been quite difficult because the state legislators in the open meetings law did not say that CECs had to take public comment from virtually. So the CEC has to pass bylaws and amend the and pass a resolution in order to even have public participation virtually. As a parent with a disability that also represents many families with disabilities, This has made it quite difficult for public engagement. The intent of this law was to actually have the public be able to hear and engage in what is being able to be provided to these members that are representing them. But if the public is not even able to participate, even if a hybrid live stream option is there, and that is what we're seeing. We're seeing actual public voices being silenced because CECs are not, they're choosing not to implement this hybrid option. I think that we need to keep a hybrid option, get rid of an in-person quorum, but at the very minimum, require that participants be able to participate virtually regardless of the actual meeting, whether the board is meeting in person and the public still being able to participate. Some of these spaces have been deemed unsafe in a very toxic way where parents were not able to engage. I think even the hybrid option as is addressed a gap that we knew existed prior to the pandemic, meaning we are getting more engagement, and the intent of the law is so that people can hear. And unfortunately, hybrid and CECs right now, they don't, even those that have enacted the law, if you're not able to hear what's happening, the intent is really actually not to be placed, where we're seeing in a fully virtual aspect, the intent is actually being implemented. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. We're going to go back unless there's anybody from the public who wants to provide additional testimony here who have not spoken before. We're going to go next to Jennifer Goddard, Christy Angel, and Taj Sutton.
Hello.
Yep,
Can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay, hi. My name is Jennifer Goddard. I'm a parent of a 7th grader at Seth Low in District 21 in Brooklyn. I'm also the PTA president. I've served as a CECD 21 board member, Title I chair, and SLT member for the last 6 years between elementary and middle. And I'm speaking as a parent first and foremost, who is a parent leader. And you know, I mean, it's like we've all said the same thing basically. So I'll just try to recap my take on it, which is, you know, the silver lining showing us how productive we can be through technology, enabling really a democratic participation process for parents whose time is already severely limited. So we, even without a pandemic, we should have been thinking of this and saying, how can we make this more convenient for parents to participate fully without developing onerous hoops for us to jump through, so that we can stay informed about our schools and advocate for our children. I mean, I can't help but think that taking away this option or allowing the law to expire without, you know, fully confirming its existence is it's a discriminatory practice, as others have mentioned, about, you know, parents who have disabilities not being able to physically be there, but also the parents who can't afford to take time off of work to be there. You know, it's a luxury to be able to spend time volunteering. That's a luxury item that you really don't get to do unless you have that income, that financial comfort to do so. So, you know, with regards to taking away or allowing it to expire, it would be akin to the DOE allowing or taking the wheelchair access ramps off of their buildings. You know, I mean, this is a service that we've been provided as parents that would be a criminal to take away, I think, at this point. Anyway, and then, you know, as to the logistics, the whole, like, is it virtual, is it hybrid, is it this or that? There really does need to be a mandate across the board that it's either or, whatever is most convenient to the parents. Quorum is reached as long as there are 9 or whatever people on the call, or 9 people in a room, or a mix of such, so that there's no all this back and forth about, do we have enough people? Who's going to be there on Friday? I don't know. So I thank, you know, all the assembly members. I thank the Manhattan Borough President for your advocacy, for, you know, giving us this forum. And I thank all the parent leaders who are on this call right now. And I appreciate all the hard work. Hopefully someone in Albany will listen and we will be able to continue building on what the COVID pandemic has allowed us to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christy, if you don't mind, I see another elected official who's joined us, and just being cognizant of his, I know his schedule, we're going to ask if Senator Brad Wellman-Segal would like to provide testimony.
Sure, thank you very much. I guess you can, I don't know if you can see me, but you can hear me though, right?
We can hear you and we see a picture of you.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to turn the photo on, but
somewhere there.
I guess it's not inviting me as a panelist, but that's fine. I'll continue. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Hello, Deputy Borough President. I'm State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel. Oh, there are. Okay. I think if you want to see me, you have to. I can't. I can't start my video, but that's fine. I think you have to, but that's fine if it's not possible. I'm State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel. I represent the west side of Manhattan, from Christopher Street in the Village up to West 103rd on the Upper West Side. My district includes community wards 2, 4, and 7. And I want to echo the testimony of my colleagues from community boards that you've heard today. I'm a former chair of a community board myself. Communities in my district, as has been said, have come now to expect and rely on these hybrid meetings. And we've heard in my office from community members that they wouldn't be able to participate in civic life without the convenience allowed by these types of meetings. I carry legislation in Albany. So to your previous testifier, Albany is listening. And I carry legislation to ensure that community boards can continue to use hybrid meetings, and look forward to working with the borough president, the deputy borough president, and my colleagues in Albany to get that passed. However, there are a number of issues that need to be addressed moving forward. First, community boards are struggling with the financial and technological demands of broadcasting meetings to Zoom with the requisite audio and video quality. To the extent possible, New York City should provide greater support in this area, both financial and advisory, to community board members and their staff. Second, community board members have voiced a desire for even greater flexibility for hybrid participation. However, quorum requirements limit the ability of community board members from actually taking advantage of this option in some instances. To ensure community boards can resemble their constituents demographically, as well as attract and retain high-quality members, rules regarding virtual attendance should be made more flexible. In 2022, I introduced a bill in the state Senate, S584, that would do exactly that. Third, after more than 3 years of virtual meetings, in-district partners are no longer as willing to loan meeting space to community boards. Community boards 2 and 7 in particular, as I understand it, have been struggling to locate rooms that can fit all 50 board members, let alone interested members of the public. New York City should provide greater support to community boards in this area, as well as incentivize private companies and entities, including nonprofit organizations, to welcome community boards into their spaces. Equity demands a flexible and high-quality virtual option. In CB7, for example, 25% of residents are 65 years of age or older, the highest share of any community district. This age group is more susceptible to COVID, RSV, flu, and other ailments that are floating throughout our communities during the winter months, and more likely to suffer mobility issues. To the extent that the hybrid model has empowered communities by making the boards more accessible, it should be protected, expanded, and frankly, celebrated. I look forward to advancing these goals with the borough president and my colleagues when we return to Albany this January. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so much, Senator. Next, we're going to go to Christy Angel, then Todd. Whenever you're ready, Christy.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'll piggyback on a lot of what my colleagues have stated. I am a member of the Citywide Council for District 75. I am here speaking on my own behalf as a parent advocate. And I would like to start as a parent advocate. In COVID, I was allowed to join the council meetings, to see and have access to spaces that I didn't know was available to me, like other parents who are able to join us now. COVID allowed us to have them active in the community, have resources, workshops, and have direct impact and contact with people who made choices and changes that impacted my son and our children's life. Meaning our superintendent, or if people we couldn't get on the email, you could jump in the chat and ask questions and get real life tangible answers when you couldn't do that before. As an elected official, where I've run into some things is that our council historically has not been able to make quorum. During the pandemic, we could. This year alone, from July through November, we could not make pandemic due to the fact that we didn't have enough people in person, yet we had enough online. As you do know, District 75, we have a lot of different people with special needs, with disabilities, and this can make it hard for people to get around, to get childcare, to be where they need to be to get the information that we're here to give them. We should be focusing on our constituents and not quorum. In my opinion, I believe there do need to be adjustments around hybrid and quorum, and there does need to be some aspect of remote meetings that are allowed, especially for our constituents, where it's really harder for them to get into places where we're trying to have these meetings, even though we definitely make them accessible. Having to bring your children from place to place or different boroughs is an extreme hardship. And we're asking you to please consider our special children, our children with disabilities, because we need access, we need accessibility, and that is what our hybrid meetings give us. And that's what I would love for you to consider. And at the end of the day, as a parent member, we are volunteering. This is free. And a lot of it is a lot of hard work when you're running around. Listen, we said we want to be here. We're going to be here. But if it can be easier for us to engage with our constituents and to do the work, we are asking for you guys to support us in doing that. Currently, we do have like different electronics, and we're finding different ways to engage with the public. And if this can be expanded in a hybrid way, in fixing quorum and in allowing remote meetings, we would be very, very, very excited and happy for that. So once again, thank you for listening to my testimony and giving me a space to speak on today.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Taj Sutton. I just want to say before, Taj, you give your testimony, if anybody else who is on Zoom would like to provide testimony who has not spoken already and submit a testimony, please raise your hand. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to submit. We're also going to make sure that that Dawn or somebody from our MBP team can put in the chat the email address for public testimony, but you can also just go to our website, manhattanbp.nyc.gov. Right on the top, green banner, top of the screen, you click on that, it'll generate an email straight to Chris Carroll for public testimony. So Taj, whenever you're ready. Yes, we can.
Okay, so many wonderful people spoke today about some really important things. So I think I just want to use my time to add some nuance and uplift some things. The first thing I want to say is that since the school closures caused by the pandemic, we have been asking that things like Wi-Fi and accessibility become public utilities that are free, because we recognize the value of the virtual spaces and the accessibility they provide, not only to members of our community with disabilities or who are elderly, but also to individuals who are parents of very young, small children, also to individuals who are low income and cannot afford childcare, also to individuals who are chronically ill, also to individuals who, for a myriad of reasons, are vulnerable to the many respiratory illnesses that we are continuing to see, no matter what story the city tries to sell us, right? COVID is not over, and it has a lot of cousins, okay? So there's public health issues to consider, there's childcare issues to consider, there's accessibility issues to consider. And with all of that coming out of the pandemic, there are also some deep, deep cultural issues to consider. So I am one of the community education council presidents in New York City, and I heard a lot of community boards speak today. And I really hope something that comes out of this meeting is a partnership between this borough president's office and really all of them with the CECs, because I always see a lot of support and recognition and amplification of community board meetings and what goes on there. But there is nothing more important in this city than the education that keeps getting defunded. And so we need folks talking about, attending, and knowledgeable about what is happening at the CEC and citywide level. And to that point, it's incredibly important for us to maintain and expand the virtual option, in part because we are seeing individuals who are divisive, who are racist, who are ableist, who are transphobic, coming into these council spaces and wreaking havoc. Now, we should be very clear and honest about the fact that this can happen both virtually and in person. But what the virtual option does is allow people to be safe from physical harm. You also have to be clear that some of the elected officials in our city, right, there were places they wouldn't go. There were communities they deemed unsafe and unfit to step foot in. And so those communities remained under-resourced until the advent of the virtual options, which allowed districts like 17 and other predominantly Black and brown districts with wonderful parent leadership who have to email and call 70 times. Yep, I'll wrap up, to get a response. So the overwhelming majority of New Yorkers really want to maintain this virtual option. And I just want to reiterate my colleagues' points about the quorum. In-person quorum really feels like a discriminatory practice, which someone else said. And it is currently being weaponized against parent leaders in spaces who are doing really important liberatory anti-racism work for the good of this entire city. And so that needs to be acknowledged and contextualized, and we need to fight to amend, support, uplift, and expand the open meetings law so that people doing really good work can do so safely. Thank you.
Thank you. I see, Ms. Hernandez, I think that you've already provided testimony, so unless you have a question, I want to move on to Teresa Arboleda, who has not yet had the opportunity to submit testimony. But Lupe, if you can, if it is a question, you can put it in the Q&A. We're happy to address questions as soon as we get through the rest of folks who would like to testify. With that, Teresa, whenever you feel ready to go, you can go ahead and begin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're good to go.
Okay. I agree with most of what was said, so I won't repeat it. I just have a question. The way it is now, you need a quorum to have a hybrid meeting. However, if you have people on Zoom who are not present, can they vote on a resolution? In other words, you do have quorum and you vote. And let's say you have 6 people to approve. You need 6 people to approve a resolution, but 5 approve it. But you have people on Zoom who are in favor. Can they vote to approve a resolution?
I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, and if you have a specific question about a specific situation, I would love to talk to you offline, and I can provide some guidance there. But the rule as it stands is that once you have achieved in-person quorum, those members who are participating virtually can have their votes counted towards they can vote and be counted towards the meeting.
They can be counted. That's because there's a question that I can never get answered.
Again, just because being cognizant of the time and the fact that this kind of format is that we'd like to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to provide testimony. If you have any specific questions, I really recommend that you come talk to us directly.
No, it's not specific. It's just a general question.
Because every board also must pass a resolution on the rules on kind of the hybrid format, the hybrid nature of their board in order to do that. And so it could be a little different based on what board, if you are the kind of the situation on each board.
Okay, I'm still confused.
You have any?
Can't get this question answered. It's a general question.
Teresa,
yes.
I work for the Manhattan Borough President as well. I think to simplify this a little bit, it really depends. It depends if the board has adopted some of these hybrid rules. So I'm happy to answer some.
Okay.
better
So,
suited.
so it depends on the bylaws of the
Yeah.
board, of the Cs. I'm on the Citywide Council on English Language Learners, so
Got it.
so we just make quorums. So, but in case somebody,
Many of the citywide councils are actually haven't been adopting hybrid rules. So I'm happy to talk to you offline. It's probably easier to do it that way.
okay, yeah, because I still can't get an answer to this.
Well, I can try to help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
With that, unless I see any other hands raised for public testimony, I'm just going to take a quick look at the Q&A just to see if there are any other questions that need to be answered. Are other boroughs, BPOs holding similar hearings? I don't know. I only work for the Manhattan Borough President. Been hoping there's enough time to, yes, Taj was able to speak. Great. New York State is getting money from federal government to improve internet access. Ms. Collins has provided some information, which I'm happy to share in the, or maybe I'll try to share that with the group that's here. Is there a place where we can access and read other people's written testimony and comments are submitted? When will this recording be posted? This recording is not only being recorded, but it's being live streamed. I forget if it's on Facebook or
it will be on our
it will be on our YouTube page. I think it's fine to provide all testimony, and we've said kind of publicly that folks can provide testimony up through the end of the week. So after that period ends, happy to make available all of the comments posted. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Lupe, there's another person who would like to provide testimony under Lupe's name. So if whoever's there under Lupe Hernandez, will go to you right in a minute. Do we have a telephone number to ask questions? I'm happy to provide, so Dawn should, to Ms. Collins' question, provide my email address and my office number so I can speak to Ms. Collins to make sure that she has her question answered. How long do we have to provide testimony? Just at the end, until the end of the week, would be great. You can go online, manhattanbp.nyc.gov. Can I be contacted regarding citywide councils and voting online? I'm sorry, I don't know, because we're the borough president's office and I don't, I'm not familiar with other practices and other groups.
We can get in touch.
Okay, but again, please reach out to our office directly and I'm happy to try to do what we can to help you. And then there was a clarification question about who, about citywide councils have not considered this current change of OML. I think, Chris, that had to do with, I think to answer Carolyn Castro's question, and what I think we talked about at the beginning of this is that in order for any public body to operate a hybrid meeting, they have to pass a resolution to do so. It doesn't just automatically happen. And in order to pass that resolution, they can kind of specify a few of the details over what is considered an acceptable excuse. How does one self-certify that excuse? How long they're going to be hybrid, all of these kind of pieces to that. So I think what Chris Carroll was saying was that it really does depend on those individual bylaws, and you should consult, if you have a specific question about a certain board, you should consult their bylaws to see how they've, if and how they've adopted hybrid meetings. But in general, what we had said at the beginning was that even the option to go hybrid does sunset in July of 2024, which is why we're having this discussion now. Okay, I hope that has answered a lot of the questions that have come in. We'll go next to whoever is named Lupe Hernandez, and we'll get your name, and the timer will start whenever you start speaking.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. My name is Erica Kendall. I'm the current president of the Community Education Council for District 17, which encompasses basically everything in Central Brooklyn from Prospect Park to Brownsville. And I wanted to share something. When Miss Sutton spoke earlier, she was saying something that I was saying in our kind of like CEC group chat because I specifically wanted to highlight a part of the concern that some of the outer borough communities and some of the furthest from the center of the city, one of the concerns we had and were able to address was the ability to bring out the folks who are decision makers in education to be able to come face to face with the people who are impacted by being left out of a lot of the conversations that happen around our children and our schools. So being able to bring to the table the people who oversee some of the most essential programs for children, for example, children with autism, being able to bring out the person who oversees that program from both NYU and DOE Central was what facilitated us being able to implement the new programs that we got within a matter of months, whereas it usually takes years. The effectiveness of our council and our community to come together and advocate and rally around what we needed in a way that allowed people to feel safe. Was so essential to some of the work that we've been able to do over the past 4 years. I've been a CEC member for about a decade now. So my experience covers both pre and current pandemic climate. And I feel that a lot of times when we talk about this, we talk about access, but we don't necessarily consider impact. And I think the impact on the way that the law is written right now requires quorum in person to do some of the work that allows us to advocate. However, when I've spoken to some of our senators about this particular law, they say, well, people want face-to-face interaction with their elected officials. There has to be a way to allow for us to define what in-person engagement with our constituents looks like while not hamstringing the work that's actually the most essential, which is the ability to pass resolutions. So in terms of what we're required to have quorum for, maybe there's a little bit more wiggle room there while also allowing for us to define what in-person engagement with our constituents looks like. And I feel like respectfully, when it comes to CEC members, sure, we are elected and sure, we have constituents, but we are unpaid members of the community being asked to put ourselves and our families at risk in a way that does not feel safe. So I just would like for all of that to be considered when it comes to thinking about what it means to redefine OML in a modern era. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kindle. Okay, I'm just going to do one more check here. I think that's it. Thank you, Eric. Again, I'm just going to then, in just our last few minutes, I'm going to say that that testimony is still going to be received by our office up through Friday. So please go ahead and go to our website, manhattanbp.nyc.gov, green bar, very top, click the link. It'll go directly to an email format. If you don't want to do that, you can email Chris Carroll with the title, with the subject line OML public hearing. Thank you again to everybody who's participated. As I said, this recording is going to be automatically uploaded to the Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine's web YouTube page. And we're happy to circulate a total list of comments of testimony once the kind of submission portal closes. With that, then we're going to formally end this public hearing with many thanks to everybody who has been with us for this duration. Thank you so much. Thank you. We can shut off the live stream. Okay.